I'm Ben Street, I'm an art historian. I'm very happy to be here with Masterpiece, talking about materials. Today I'm going to be talking about paint and ink. I wanted to be able to be quite loose in a way with my definitions of thinking about these things. The first object I'd like to talk about is a good example of the way in which certain discovery can completely recalibrate our idea of history. Certain discoveries made by archaeologists, made by art historians, can shift and reframe everything we thought we knew. Now, I have to say that is ongoing. That's happening all the time. And it's something I'm going to touch on a little bit in this talk, I think. But I always think it's very interesting, if you haven't seen an object like this one, it's very interesting to see what happens with your understanding of the history of art. When you see these paintings, a painting like this one, it just kind of unsettles everything in a really interesting and fun way. This is an object that's in the collection of the National Gallery, and it dramatically predates the earliest painting in the National Gallery. But in its style, it seems to dramatically post-date it, because we have a painting that's made with a kind of naturalism and a casualness that might make us think of the 19th century. And yet, it's probably from the 2nd or 3rd century. We see a painting that has a wonderful fall of light from left to right as we look. We see a kind of dancing light in this man's eyes that makes it feel as though he must be right in front of us. This is a way that the history of art is always presenting us with surprises, because it doesn't go in a straight line. It's more complicated than that. This painting is known as what's called the Fayum portrait. It's a really interesting thing, and the Fayum portraits are held in a number of major museum collections. You do see them at the British Museum. There's some wonderful ones at the Kunsthistorisches Museum in Vienna. They are around, so they can be seen. And I really recommend, if and when you are able to really delve into looking at these portraits, because they are incredibly exciting. What they are, basically, is that they are highly naturalistic portraits of sitters who may have been alive when the painting was made and may not have been. And they were used as part of the burial process in Egypt. But to call them Egyptian is not quite right. I mean, they were made in Egypt, kind of just south of Cairo. They were made probably by Greeks, and they were made under Roman rule. So they're really hybrid. But it's also kind of complicated as to what they are as objects, because they are not quite like portraits as we would understand them. This particular painting was made to be placed as part of a wrapped mummy. It was made, can you imagine a wrapped mummy with a kind of window, cut-out window, where the face would be, and this would be placed and then covered around with those bandages, as though the real living face of the corpse could look out at you. And the indication of that vitality, historically, has probably got to do with the idea of the soul. It's probably got to do with the idea that in a way he is alive, because his soul is passing to the land of the dead. It's painted with a really fascinating material, which is called encaustic. Now, encaustic is a technique whereby pigment dried into a powder and then mixed with wet, hot wax. It holds the colour really well and it dries really quickly, so you can actually make the paintings. You can make the paintings pretty quickly. The Fayum portraits are completely mysterious, magical, powerful things. To me, they go beyond just the historical period and become about fundamental kind of human ideas. Any chance you get to see this, it's one of those exciting moments when history kind of collapses and it's as though you're looking directly into the eyes of a real living person standing before you.